The smile no one ever questioned. I don't know exactly when it started, but I know that, for a long time, my smile was my armor. Every Monday morning, there it was. In the mirror, in the elevator, in the rushed coffee breaks in the office kitchen. A clean, controlled, professional smile, the kind that doesn't draw attention but signals to the world that everything is fine. It was automatic. Every good morning came glued to it, as if it were part of my uniform. In meetings especially, it was essential. I smiled while my boss talked too much, while coworkers tripped over each other's ideas, while PowerPoint slides flashed graphs no one really understood. I even smiled when I didn't agree with anything. Smiling was surviving. At the company, being positive was practically mandatory. No one wanted to be around someone who looked exhausted. And the truth is, I was. But if you know how to smile correctly, no one notices. I learned that early. When you smile, people don't ask questions. And if they don't ask, you don't have to answer. And if you don't answer, you don't have to face the truth. That's how I operated a finely calibrated system of elegant denial. And the scariest part was, it worked. I became efficient. And being efficient meant never missing deadlines, replying quickly, always being available, and of course, smiling. The strangest part is that this smile became part of my identity there. She's always so light, so upbeat, they said. I heard those comments and simply nodded, like a character so well written she can't leave the script. I was the one who cracked jokes during tense moments, who organized birthdays, who calmed people down when someone was spiraling. No one imagined that many nights I slept only 2 or 3 hours. That my stomach burned every morning, that my commute was filled with productivity podcasts mixed with silent anxiety attacks in the car. There was one day I'll never forget, the quarterly meeting, the kind of event where everyone wears their best clothes and pretends reports matter more than their health. I was there, as always, on time, my smile too, sitting at the end of the table, pretending to be interested in every slide, every number. But inside I was somewhere else entirely. It felt like watching a movie with the sound off. I saw mouths moving, heads nodding, graphs going up, and everything seemed so unreal. Like none of it had actual weight, like it was all foam. That's when I realized I wasn't there anymore. The smile was smiling, but I wasn't behind it. Have you ever felt that way? Inside a body that reacts for you while your mind silently begs for help? I felt like an actress trapped in a role she wrote for herself but no longer wants to play. But you can't walk off stage without causing a scene. Not when your reputation depends on the role. Not when your livelihood depends on it. Not when no one ever taught you to say, "Today, I'm not okay." So I kept going, day after day, meeting after meeting, smile after smile. And each smile was another brick in the wall separating me from myself. On the outside, everything was fine. But on the inside, something was starting to crack. The crack wasn't visible. Of course not. It was subtle, like a tiredness that doesn't go away even after the weekend. Like irritation over small things. Like a sigh that comes from nowhere. Like the sudden urge to disappear during a Zoom call, just for a while. Just to see if anyone would notice. But no one noticed. And I didn't blame them. How could they? I smiled. Smiled with my eyes. With my teeth, with my posture, smiled while writing down absurd feedback, while receiving cruel demands, while watching coworkers get fired with a "thank you for your contribution." I smiled because the alternative was a cliff. And the worst part, the more I smiled, the more they praised my strength. They said I was resilient, a model of balance, the glue of the team, and I just smiled. Because inside I was screaming. That smile, once a shield, became a prison. Here's the thing. The body always knows, even when the mind pretends. It warns you, it sends signals, but we ignore them. After all, there's a meeting at 10, a client call at 2, a deadline by end of day. There's no time to listen to your body, so it speaks louder. And when you still don't listen, it screams. And when you ignore the scream, it shuts down. But that, I would only understand later. For now, all I did was smile. If this story is touching you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. Each task was a smothered scream. I used to believe that working hard was a sign of maturity, almost like a silent trophy I carried with me. It was as if the more I overloaded myself, the more value I had in the world. And for a while, that seemed true. Every task that landed in my inbox, I accepted without question. Every extra responsibility, I embraced as if it were an opportunity to prove something I don't even know exactly what or to whom. Maybe to myself, maybe to that old fear of seeming not enough. But the more I said yes, the more I disappeared on the inside, and no one noticed. After all, I always delivered everything on time, always with the same trained smile. But what no one saw was that, behind the efficiency, each task cut through me like a scream I didn't have the courage to let out. At first, it was just normal demands, manageable things, and I could still juggle everything with a certain lightness. But little by little, things started to pile up. One new delivery here, another there, and suddenly, everything was urgent. Everything was for yesterday, and I, who had always been good at solving problems, became the person everyone went to when there were delays, mistakes, disorganization. "You're so reliable," they said, and deep down, that phrase worked like gasoline for my own burnout. I felt seen when they praised my competence, even if I was erasing myself to deserve it. And so, with every new task, I drowned a little more in silence, because those who are too busy trying to breathe don't have time to ask for help. I remember how my days started to blur together. It was always the same thing: open the laptop, chase deadlines, reply to messages, smile in meetings, put out fires. 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours of work in a single day. And when I finally turned off the computer, there was no rest, just the constant feeling of being behind on tomorrow. I lived in a state of alert, as if my entire body had become an antenna picking up demands that hadn't even arrived yet. Sometimes I woke up in the middle of the night in a panic, thinking about something I needed to deliver. And before the anxiety let me fall back asleep, I was already sitting up in bed, opening the laptop again. It was like working inside a tunnel, dark, narrow, with no exit. But what hurt the most wasn't the workload. It was the loneliness of it. Because when you're too efficient, the people around you start to believe you can handle everything. And when they believe that, they stop worrying, they stop asking, they stop paying attention. I became the person who can take it, without anyone imagining how much that was destroying me. Sometimes I paused for a few seconds before joining a call just to breathe. Not a calm breath, but the kind that tries to keep the tears from falling. I'd look at myself in the camera and say to my reflection, "Just one more. Just get through this one." And then, I'd smile. And it worked. Until the next one. Mornings began to feel heavier. It was like having a stone on my chest before I even got out of bed. A mix of exhaustion and guilt for not being able to wake up with energy, guilt for not being as strong as I seemed, guilt for failing myself even while not failing anyone else. I dragged myself to the bathroom, washed my face with cold water, took a deep breath, and in the mirror, tried to fit that same smile back onto my face, the smile that had saved me so many times. But little by little, it started to look strange. A bit crooked, a bit empty, as if even my face was giving up on cooperating with the lie. And then, the physical signs began. First, a slight headache at the end of the day. Then, stomach pain, insomnia, loss of appetite, tremors in my hands, as if my body were trying to tell me something I stubbornly refused to hear. "You can't handle this anymore." But I answered back, "I have to handle it. Too many people are counting on me." And so, I kept shoving my own exhaustion forward, believing it was just a phase, just a bad week, a bad streak of weeks, a bad month, until I realized I'd been tired for so long that being tired had become my new permanent version. I hid everything so well that sometimes even I believed everything was under control. But there were moments, small and dangerous, when the truth slipped through the cracks. Like when I went out for lunch and just stared at my plate without eating. Or when I froze in front of a simple email because my mind simply refused to process any words. Or when I'd lock myself in the bathroom and let the tears fall slowly, silently, as if even crying had to follow company rules. Discreet, quick, productive. But the scariest part was that even then, I kept smiling. Because smiling gave me the illusion that I wasn't falling apart. And because stopping would mean admitting that all of this was really hurting me. That smile turned into a kind of anesthesia. It kept me from feeling, from reacting, from asking for help. And the more I smiled, the harder it became to take off the mask. I didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of the collapse. A silent collapse, hidden between perfect deliveries and flawless meetings. A collapse that grew every time I said it's all good when nothing was. A collapse that only needed one moment, a single moment, to finally show itself. And that moment was coming. exhaustion became a language I used to think the body was just a vehicle, something the mind steers with willpower. I was always good at ignoring pain, sleep, hunger. When you grow up being praised for being strong, you learn to pretend you don't feel. But the body has memory, and it collects debts. Exhaustion, when ignored, finds other ways to speak. And with me, it started whispering. Then it screamed. At first, there were small warnings. A tiredness that didn't go away even after 8 hours of sleep. Muscle aches for no reason. A strange nausea every morning as soon as I opened my eyes. But I told myself it was just stress. I'd take a pill, breathe deeply, and move on. Until the warnings became patterns. My heart would race for no reason. My hands shook when I opened my laptop. Sometimes I completely froze in front of a simple task like replying to an email. My head was full, but empty at the same time. I felt like a corrupted file. The data was still there, but nothing worked. At work, no one noticed. Because from the outside, I was still flawless. Hair done, tasks delivered, always on time. But inside, I was nothing but shattered pieces held together by obligation. And smiling. Smiling started to hurt physically. The muscles in my face throbbed after meetings. My cheeks trembled at the end of the day. It was as if even my face were tired of lying. And the cruelest part, I started getting used to it. Waking up in pain became normal. Feeling sick whenever I heard notifications became routine. I avoided in-person meetings because I didn't want anyone to see how exhausted I really was. And at the same time, I felt guilty for not being present enough. It was like living in a body with the alarm blaring all the time, and no one else could hear it, only me. One day, during an important presentation, something happened. I was explaining a report, something I had prepared myself, something I knew inside out, and suddenly, my mind went blank. I looked at the screen and couldn't understand what the data meant. The words disappeared. The air got heavy. My chest tightened. I heard someone call my name, but the voice sounded far away. My smile, the same one that had saved me so many times, simply didn't show up. I froze. It was just a second, maybe not even that, but to me, it felt like an eternity. And at that moment, I realized something had finally snapped. I pretended it was just a bad turn, said I wasn't feeling well, asked to step out, went to the bathroom, locked the door and looked at myself in the mirror. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't recognize myself. My eyes were empty. My face looked tired of me. And in that silence, I finally understood what my body had been screaming for months. You cannot keep going like this. I started to fear Mondays, fear waking up, fear meetings, fear myself. Anxiety grew like a shadow that followed me everywhere. And the most unbearable part was having to pretend everything was fine. Because if I showed weakness, what would happen? Would I be fired? Ridiculed? Would I disappoint the people who believed in me? I thought about that every time I woke up with my stomach in knots, every time I cried before leaving the house, every time I smiled in meetings while my head pounded. It was an invisible prison built from expectations, fear, and that old pride of not asking for help. There was one night in particular. I was reviewing a project, alone, in the dark, with my laptop on my lap. The silence in the house was absolute, and yet it felt deafening. My chest was tight, my breath short, and suddenly, I started to cry. Not a small, quiet cry, but a raw, deep one, as if my entire body were releasing everything it had held back for months. I cried for hours, and strangely, it didn't bring relief. It only confirmed what I feared most. I was losing control. In the days that followed, everything got worse. I forgot appointments, repeated tasks, had crying spells in the office bathroom, started pushing friends away, avoiding messages, turning my phone off. My mind felt like a dark room where all the furniture had been moved out of place. I stumbled over my thoughts, hurt myself on memories. I could no longer keep up the appearance. And the smile didn't show up anymore, not even when I tried to force it. That's when I understood. Collapse doesn't arrive all at once. It moves in slowly, smiling with you, pretending it's just tiredness, just one more deadline, just one more meeting, until one day, it takes over. And when that happens, it's already too late to pretend. I didn't want to accept it. I still tried to justify it. It's just a bad phase. Next week will be better. After this big project, I'll rest. But my body had already decided for me. I was no longer capable of continuing. Exhaustion was no longer just a symptom. It was my new language, and it screamed, "Stop." And even then, I kept going, because sometimes we only learn where the limit is when we cross it. The day silence turned into collapse, I woke up that day with a strange feeling. It was as if my body were made of concrete, heavy, cold, impossible to move. The morning light slipped through the cracks in the curtains, but everything in me felt submerged in shadow. My phone buzzed with messages from the team, notifications piling up from the night before. The alarm had already gone off 3 times, and still, I couldn't get up. I stayed there, motionless, staring at the ceiling as if, somehow, it might give me an answer. But the world doesn't stop to listen to you. It demands. So I forced myself through the inertia and dragged my body to the bathroom. I washed my face with cold water, like I always did, hoping the shock would spark some hint of energy. I looked in the mirror. No trace of the smile that had kept me functioning for so long. Just red eyes, an empty expression, a reflection that seemed to be asking for help. I took a deep breath, got dressed, coffee, computer, camera ready. It was all hands meeting day. I joined the call a few minutes early, mic off, camera on. I stared at the screen like someone watching a distant world. One by one, my co-workers appeared. Little boxes with smiling faces, animated voices, rehearsed greetings. "Good morning, everyone," someone said. "Let's start with good news," another one announced. And there I was, trying, with everything I had left, to put that mask of efficiency back on. But something inside me had already quit. The manager started presenting the quarterly results. Graphs, numbers, goals. I heard, but I didn't understand. The words reached my ears as if they were being spoken underwater. My eyes followed the slides, but my mind drifted away, like it had been unplugged. A strange numbness took over my body. It was like I was being erased slowly, from the inside out. And then, they called my name. "Could you comment on the data from the report you prepared?" Silence. I tried to answer. I swear I did, but my mouth wouldn't move. My mind was blank. The words I knew so well, the ones I had written myself, were simply gone. The little green border around my screen, showing I was the focus, kept blinking. Everyone was looking at me. I could feel their eyes, but I couldn't breathe properly. My chest clenched. The air felt stuck in my throat. And the worst part, I knew exactly what was happening. I knew I was freezing, and even so, I couldn't get out of it. "Everything okay over there?" someone asked, half joking, half worried. That sentence cut through me like a blade. Everything I'd been holding back for months threatened to spill out. I turned off my mic, lowered my head, and left the call. No explanation, no excuse. I just left. The sound of the laptop closing echoed like an ending. I locked myself in the bathroom and started shaking. The tears came before I even noticed. It was as if my body were expelling everything I'd suppressed. Every forced smile, every "I'm fine" that was a lie, every sleepless night, every time I swallowed my tears. It all came at once, and I cried like a child, cried until I couldn't anymore. And when the crying finally stopped, what remained was a frightening silence, a deep emptiness, as if I had completely come undone. I spent hours there, sitting on the cold floor, trying to understand what had just happened. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't just an anxiety attack. It was the final collapse. The moment when body, mind, and heart all said, enough. It was the breaking point, the limit crossed. And for the first time in a long time, I understood what it really meant to break. After that day, I didn't go back to work. At least, not in the same way. I tried to justify what happened with a medical note, a generic excuse. But inside, I knew what had happened was a scream I had ignored for months, a scream that finally had been heard. The shame hit like an avalanche. I felt weak, incompetent, a fraud. And at the same time, there was a strange sense of relief. As if, now that everyone knew I wasn't unbreakable, I could finally be human. But it still hurt. It hurt to know I had to collapse for someone to notice I wasn't okay. It hurt to know that I was the one who had ignored my own signs. It hurt just to exist like that. In the days that followed, the messages started coming in. "Are you okay? If you need anything, I'm here." Some sincere, others just polite. And I didn't know what to say. How do you explain that you no longer know who you are? That everything in you feels taken apart? That you're afraid of going back to who you were? Because you know that version of you was dying? The truth is, that collapse saved me, but at the time, I couldn't see it that way. All I could feel was the weight, the ruin, the silence. And it was in that silence that, slowly, healing began to whisper. The decision to stop pretending. Life went on, not the way we imagine, fast, painless, simple. It went on the way it does for those who are rebuilding, slowly, with pauses, full of relapses and short breaths. But it went on, and with time, I slowly started to learn how to live again. Not like before, as someone who survives each week on caffeine and shallow praise, but as someone who, after falling, chose to get up differently, whole, imperfect, but alive. Coming back to the world after a collapse is like learning to walk again. Everything feels new, scary, familiar, and strange at the same time. I knew I needed to find a new way of existing inside and outside of work. But the hardest part was dealing with the ghosts, the guilt for having stopped, the fear of disappointing people, the shame of having failed. Only with time did I understand that I hadn't failed. I had survived, and more than that, I had been reborn. It was in this new space of awareness that I found my purpose. I began to speak openly about what I'd gone through. I wrote an article, recorded an audio, shared my story in a mental health forum. The response was overwhelming. People I had never met reached out to thank me. People who had also smiled too much, who had also pretended to well, who had also collapsed in silence. One of them wrote to me, "I thought I was the only one who felt like this. Thank you for putting into words what I could never say." And that broke me open. That's when I realized my pain needed to be told. Because it wasn't just mine. It was the portrait of an entire generation taught to smile while destroying itself. People who learned that working to the point of exhaustion is proof of worth. Who believed that showing vulnerability is weakness. Who thought, for far too long, that staying quiet and enduring is strength. I decided to break with that. I didn't go back to the same position. I didn't accept the same terms. I chose another path, simpler, maybe less glamorous, but more honest with myself. Today, I work with purpose, with time, with pauses. I still have fears, of course. I still occasionally hear that old voice whispering you should be doing more. But now, I know how to quiet it, because I've learned to listen to another voice, my own. And it says, you don't have to erase yourself to be loved. You don't have to get sick to be valued. You don't have to smile when everything inside you wants to cry. I'm no longer the person who smiles in every meeting. Today, if I smile, it's because I feel it. If I speak, it's because I believe it. And if I stop, it's because I respect myself. The collapse that knocked me down was also the starting point of my healing. A collapse that forced me to listen, to look inward, to say no, to ask for help, to exist for real. And maybe, just maybe, that's what true success looks like. Today, my story is no longer a secret. It breathes in the words I write, in the conversations I have, in the people I reach. It lives in the silence that once almost killed me, but that now has saved me. Because it was exactly that silence, uncomfortable, heavy, ignored, that showed me I didn't want to just survive anymore. I wanted to live. And living, I discovered, begins with a simple and radical choice: to stop pretending. The breaking point and the journey back to yourself. If you've made it this far, maybe you felt a tightness in your chest. Maybe you saw yourself in this dusty mirror called burnout. Maybe you remembered a moment when you too smiled while everything inside you was imploding. This story, like so many others that live in silence along corporate hallways, is not just about work. It's about identity, about how much of ourselves we lose trying to fit into places that were never designed to hold us, about how we normalize the absurd in the name of survival. The truth is, no one prepares us for the weight of pretending every day. No one teaches us to respect our limits before they start screaming. No one tells us that exhaustion can look like productivity, that tiredness can be praised, that collapse can come dressed up as competence. But now you know, and knowing changes everything. This story doesn't end with a perfect conclusion, because perfect endings don't exist outside performance reports. It ends, or maybe begins, with an act of quiet courage, recognizing yourself at your own limit. And from that recognition, doing something very few people have the strength to do: choosing yourself. So if at some point in your journey you feel like you've been smiling too much, stop, breathe, ask yourself, is this smile really mine? Or is it armor? Because sometimes the greatest act of love we can offer ourselves is to take off the mask and say, with a steady voice and open heart, enough. If this story touched you, share it. Comment so more people know they are not alone and that there is life beyond performance. If your job is killing you, maybe it's time to save yourself.